Konnichiwa. Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York.
Press team, I just wanted to stop by and say thank you all for being here today. If there's anything you need this week, we're staffed in the press office. Please feel free to reach out if there's anything we can do to help, and I hope you enjoy the tour. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
No.
Yes. Okay. You can? Yes. Okay.
I have a loud voice, so we're going to be focusing on what makes retail work, okay? And there are basically 8 things, and I think Bob will support me, that make retail work. First, hire people who are kind and empathetic. Then, train them, okay? And then basically, there's the use of technology. There are 8 factors. So the early part of this is going to be focusing on the human asset and training and empowering. The reason why I picked that was because during the pandemic, I mean, one thing that's come up is the training, empathetic people. To me, the 2 things, the most important thing in retail is hire people who are kind and empathetic and train them. Yeah. And so we'll take a look.
It's the devil's in the details, right?
That's it.
You can say that in press, but when someone builds a new store, Reddy did a great job. I was like, the manager was great, the thought is great, and Rafa was great.
Rafa, that great?
Really
That's
amazing.
a bit of a gem, right?
Really amazing.
That's how Nike started. Just like that. That's how Nike started. Just like that. Oh, really? Yeah. We did a tour with John Donahoe and his team, and that's what they said. This is how
That was us.
Yeah, that was us. Here we go. So this is a company called Scandit, and they basically have the technology that companies use to engage their employees. And we're going to have one of the members of the team speak to us right now. So we're going to go here, Scandit. Next we're going to Zipline. Zipline is all about employee empowerment. And then we're going to go to Panther AR. So we have a journey. We're going to be here, and then we're going to be up on the, we're going to end with robotics. So if anybody's afraid of being chased by a robot, maybe you should leave the tour right now. These are not aggressive, these are very friendly robots, but they've been known to attack reporters. I'm just joking, okay? So we have wireless mics, which is called Speak Loud. Okay?
Yeah.
And yeah, wireless mics.
All right. Hey everybody, thanks for being here. So, that wasn't loud enough? Oh boy, I'm gonna be screaming. All right guys, sorry, you're next to me, so it might get loud. Thanks all for being here. I'm Chris Anisi, I'm from Scandit. So welcome to NRF. Here to talk about Scandit, and we are an SDK that provides smart data capture to businesses to allow their employees and their customers to operate more efficiently. And so we capture barcodes, images, and IDs. One example that we do in retail seconds matter, right? One of our customers is actually saving 4 seconds with an in-store order fulfillment use case on each order. That 4 seconds equates to $40 million in labor efficiency. So one of the big differentiators is that Scandit actually operates in difficult conditions. So if you think about a retail warehouse, back of the store, the lighting's not great, we're able to scan barcodes and images in seconds, as you can see in the video here.
Did you develop any new technology that's going to be launched next year?
Yeah, so actually we just launched our Shelf View product this week here at NRF. So what Shelf View does is retailers struggle to make sure that they have the right price and labels on their items. So price label verification. So through a smartphone, it enables the employee to use augmented reality to tell if the price is correct. And then they can quickly print a label off a hip printer and reprice that item. So not only are we doing that with mobile devices, but we're also doing it with robots autonomous floor scrubbers. We have a use case in place with a large retailer in the warehouse space that is doing autonomous scanning in the steel above in the warehouse. COVID has accelerated our business, I think, is number one. I mean, if you think about, just, in-store order fulfillment as an example, buy online, pick up in store. I mean, this was something that was a small fraction of a retailer's business in early 2020 and 2019 that has exploded, right? So, these retailers really needed to mobilize around in-store order fulfillment and completely change their operation to fulfill those orders for customers who were no longer coming into stores. Thanks, guys. Enjoy the rest of NRF.
Hi. So we have members of the press here. Please meet Melissa, who is the CEO of Zipline.
Hi.
Founder. And so I thought she would tell us a story about how her company has really transformed sort of the workforce during the pandemic.
Can everyone hear me? Okay. It's hard. So I usually have a softer voice. So thank you so much for the introduction. So Dan was talking a lot about the transformation of retail in the past couple of years. And I think what's particularly interesting is that you can see the amount of complexity in the environment has probably increased about tenfold, right? So from our perspective, from a retail team perspective, we help do communications and operations in stores. And our users are the store associates that are handling customer complaints, that are putting up marketing, but now they're being asked to ship from store, do buy online, curbside runouts, and the role of a store team member has become exponentially more complex. Even before the pandemic, getting a store person to do the thing, right? To speak to customers in a particular way, to talk about a product attribute, it was only 29%, right? So headquarters, for example, maybe like a Walgreens might ask a store associate, hey, there's a pullback happening from a shelf. Only 29% of people would actually do the thing. So I actually used to be in retail for over a decade, and the reason that I left is because it was so hard to get stores to do the thing to make sure that our corporate strategies were happening. So I left to build a solution that made it easy for store teams to keep track of information and to understand, how am I a part of this brand? How can I be the best brand ambassador? And what's my role? Am I being successful or not? So this solution has specifically been built to help educate, train, and also retain field employees, which is particularly important with the labor shortage, with a lot of customer frustrations, right? There's just a lot of complications happening in the retail environment. So when our customers like American Eagle come to us, probably like 6 months ago, kind of mid-pandemic, one of the things that she says is our ability to move our retail teams and get them to do what we need to do in real time during the pandemic has enabled us to be agile, right? And as you look at all of the retailers and what they're trying to do with their business, they're transforming it to be more agile, to fit changing customer needs and demands, address supply chain issues, labor shortages. The amount of challenges in retail, it won't be easier, it'll just be different, right? The pace of business is here to stay. And so what we've seen with our customers is that with an ability to move their store teams and train them on what's important in the business, with them being able to get direction executed up to 90%, they're able to navigate the ebbs and flows of the business better, right? And to survive and then also eventually thrive because they can test and innovate and change with the pace of change that's happening in the industry.
Let's see if this might work.
What is
Yeah, so we're a communications and operations platform. So
they log in every morning kind of thing?
Okay, this has worked better. Yeah. They log in every morning, so we're the central point of truth. A retail associate steps into the building, they log into Zipline, they see, oh my gosh, this is the company news, a letter from the president, a video. Here is an important COVID update where there are the 17 things that we're gonna need to do over the next 3 months.
but I don't necessarily need to keep track of all of those details. In the past, I would be writing stickies and a personal to-do list, but we're making it easy for them and automating that work. So we're pulling everything into one place and an easy checklist for their stores. And then we bubble that up, that reporting and visibility up to headquarters so they can see what are the stores actually doing and is it actually effective. So, one of the things that I was telling Dan, in this environment particularly, with retailers trying to get more innovation in stores, the store teams are a key part of that implementation and success. And I always say, adoption is the new ROI, because if you cannot get a 17-year-old to log, you cannot make them log into technology. You cannot make them follow the directions. So how do you really enroll them in why they're important, why their voice matters, how they fit into the brand story, and help navigate the change, whether it's through setting up like a ScanDit, or whether it is repurposing the inventory to front of store.
How earlier, because I was how COVID has changed the business.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our a really interesting trend that we've seen is that in the past 2 years, the need for better communication, right, especially from the CEO of Hy-Vee said, I need to communicate with my feet on the ground. How am I supposed to get them behind what we're doing so that they know all of the initiatives and all of the things that we're doing to keep them healthy and our customers healthy? So this theme of communication has actually been one of the reasons that our business has more than doubled in the past couple of years. Communication, retention leads to retention. Better product knowledge makes you feel better connected to the brand. And if you can make it easy for retail associates to get their job done, you're saving at the budget level because of the hour saving. And you're also saving from turnover, because the typical turnover is 80%. With Zipline customers, our average churn for our 70 plus retailers is 10. So please visit us at getzipline.co. We're happy to, we have more than 70 customers, everything from digital natives like The RealReal, Warby Parker, Away, to the larger customers like Rite Aid, O'Reilly, Gap Inc. Right? We have a lot of very, I'd say, best of breed brands, Lego. They use us because we're helping them move their business faster through their teams, which is the hardest part of the business. So please use this as a resource. Most of our team has come from retail. So if you guys are writing stories and need to talk to a brand, or just want a view between many, the trends on what many brands are doing, feel free to reach out.
Thank you. We're heading this way. Thanks, great job. Appreciate it. Okay.
Very technical topic.
Page 52. It's up for it. There's something.
Okay. Come this way.
Be the same mic? I don't think it will. any of the age
Great to meet you. How are you? Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
Welcome. My name is Maggie Irvine. I'm a solutions consultant for Talent Reef. We are a technology that helps establish hiring software for everything from recruiting through your onboarding and some post-hire elements. Now, Talent Reef is driven off of the combination of our industry expertise as well as the ability to continue to digitally innovate our technologies. So with that in mind, we want to make sure that we create a solution that can pair with your back of house systems and make sure to create efficiencies and consistency across the board. So for all things recruiting, through your hiring processes and onboarding, we want to make those repeatable practices. With that, we have a technology where you can make sure that whether that location-based hiring, high-volume hiring is considered, our platform is built entirely for that. So the question today is around how to solve for onboarding and make that process more productive. Studies show without using a technology that onboarding every single piece of entry can be nearly $4.51 for that single piece of data entry. If you consider that for an employee, one single employee can be $48.14 without using that technology. We want to make sure that we can rid those costs because we are here to help increase your applicant flow across the board. So when you're considering getting fully staffed, that's a significant amount of money having to consider. Now within the Talent Reef solution, we've created a digitized onboarding experience where we take on any of your paperwork on an unlimited cadence. We're going to digitize all that information, make that something mobile enabled for applicants to access. As soon as they've been hired, they're immediately able to access their state and federal forms. Everything in a private and compliant manner so that onboarding is streamlined from start to finish. In theory, you can have new hires complete all their onboarding paperwork before their very first day of hire. Well, we look at everything from a holistic point of view. So from end-to-end processes, from submitting that application, all the way through that onboarding access, we want to make sure that there's technology there to support them. So we have a two-way texting communication for that applicant that gets stuck in the process. There's intuitive AI built throughout the process for audit checkpoints so that they're confident in what they're submitting as a part of that. And with our integration to different business systems, all of it can be completed right from that onboarding. What kind of retailers do we work with today? We work in many different industries, so across different types of verticals that have storefronts, whether it's within grocery, retail space with shoes, all different spaces and industries just across distribution. So the core of Talent Reef is to help establish what is essentially a brand blueprint. We can work with corporations who may have location level franchisees that all do things a little differently. So we're a system that's highly configurable to each location and positions different needs. We work with DHL, many different places today. We today are a solution that acts as a storage container. So if you've worked hard to create different training content, we can house that and build out SCORM format content where candidates and new hires and employees on an ongoing basis can revisit trainings, go through tests, and make sure to keep all of that digitized on record. On the second half of that, with our employee engagement and retention, that's really intended to be that straightforward process that keeps on record different deliverables of employee engagement, evaluations, warnings, and goals, and considers keeping that on record. So when you're ever in a position of, wrongful termination lawsuits, for example, everything is digitized within our solution and stored securely in our cloud. So all of our data is, taking away that paper element, lives within one talent management solution.
So for those of you who are here for the first time or whatever, the way it's set up is there's a really excellent innovation zone and startup zone that's worth your time. I would definitely go there. As we go past the next aisle, you'll see the French Tech Pavilion. There are about 30 different companies there. You can kind of get what they do pretty quickly.
So you can check out the Innovation Lab and the
see the French Tech down that way. And then we'll go over this way. Here we are. Welcome. Good.
Thank you.
So tell us about your, the application. Tell us about some of the things you're doing with ShopRite.
And if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna keep my mask off, and I'll promise to stand back. It's much harder for you to hear me if I do have the mask on. So I'm George, founder and CEO of Pather. What Pather is a spatial intelligence platform. And so what that means is, I'm gonna try to get my mouse working here. Zoe will advance the slides for us. So what that means is we connect to existing infrastructure, loss prevention cameras that are already there typically, and we track the movements of people in that space. So we take people, we turn them into a dot moving around a map. Our tagline, "You can learn a lot from a dot," implies that we're very privacy centric. So those dots have no PII associated with them whatsoever. They're entirely anonymous. We don't store any video, but what we do is we can quantify the movement patterns and understand the movements of people through spaces like retail stores, shopping malls, warehouses, distribution centers, and so on. So here you can see an example of just a density pattern, where people are spending the most time, the least time. This is a pretty typical heat map. For us, this is the starting point of what we do.
Maybe a lot of people are filming it, maybe just let them know we have this available.
Yep. There we go. So if you'd like, feel free to scan our QR code. We have all these materials available for you. This is an artist rendition of our system. So let me point out a couple of the components here because it's important. The sensor layer here is the piece that connects to the existing infrastructure. That's where the heavy AI runs. That's the computer vision part. That's what takes these existing camera feeds, up to hundreds of feeds at the same time, processes them in real time, and turns those into dots moving around the map. So you can see that what comes out of the sensor layer is anonymous location coordinates. Those are the dots there. And then that goes into our behavior engine. That's really our secret sauce. That's the thing that understands the movement patterns of people as they move through a space and connects that with the business outcomes our customers care about. So it's not a science project. We're helping our customers to make more money or save money. This is an example of one of our dashboards. So some things to point out here. Conversion rate. This is something that retailers have been measuring forever. Decades they've been measuring conversion, and they all know that that number is artificially deflated. And the reason being that if you have a family of 4 coming in and conduct one transaction, that's going to show up as 25% conversion. It's not actually right. You'd want to measure that as 100% conversion. That family conducted a transaction. So because we measure group sizes, as well as the total number of groups, we can calculate a true conversion metric. So this is a tool that we've just announced here at the show. This is something that some of our grocery customers are using, as well as our luxury retailers are using this metric, so that when that family of 4 walks in and transacts, they can say we have 100% conversion. It gives them a much more accurate view of how people are actually coming into their store and transacting. Here we're measuring shopping behavior. So the number of people that pass by every location in a store, combined with the number of people that actually shop that individual fixture, and then the number of people that interact with sales staff, you marry that with the transaction log, now you have a complete sales funnel for every fixture in a location. So our grocer customers are using this, as well as our big box retailers are also using this same metric to better understand how every fixture in their store is performing. One of the ways that they're able to use this, and they're able to monetize this, in particular our grocery customers, is by taking that information and providing it back to the manufacturers. Right, so they know how many cases of Coke moved out the door. They don't know where those came from. They never have known that before. Did it come from the beverage aisle? Did it come from the end cap? Or did it come from the deli? Now they're able to know that. They're able to understand where customers are shopping these individual products. Very similar in clothing retail. They have the same items in different locations. They didn't know before where those items were actually coming from. So we're able to provide them that. This helps them, again, sell that data back to the manufacturers or to set their slotting fees, to be able to more appropriately set the rates that they charge for those individual locations. Simple story is, how much is that end cap worth? Well, let's see how many people walked by and shopped at that end cap and set the rates that way. This hasn't been done before. This is something new that we've brought to market. Here you're seeing the dots moving around a map, so our machine learning is identifying which dot is staff and which is customer, and then understanding every time those customers and staff interact with each other. Now you can see as this day of data unfolds that we can quantify where these interactions are happening. This is a small specialty retailer where you can see that most of the staff and customer interactions are happening in this area here. They're not spending time up in that area. This is a teachable moment. So the management of the chain is able to go back to their staff and say, you should spend more time in this other area. This is where our high margin items are. We're going to guide your behavior in a data-driven way so that it's unbiased. You can go back and measure and see if you've actually implemented these behavioral changes so that you can be more effective at selling. And so this across an entire chain and across an entire fleet proves to be very valuable. That's why we're able to show really good ROI. We're able to show time to value very, very quickly. And in particular, because we have no additional hardware. So we're using the hardware that's already there. We have almost no CapEx. We're a software deployment. So with that, I'm going to jump to our, thank you. We have our QR code here where you can get more information. You can feel free to reach out to myself or any member of the team. I'd be happy to answer questions now or offline if you'd like to ask afterwards.
Is there any loss prevention application to this? Like,
there is.
You can see the customers moving in a different way?
Thank you for that. Yes, that's exactly one of the other use cases that we do. So because we're able to understand movement patterns from the perspective of behavior in a sophisticated way, we can say that's anomalous behavior. That's something suspicious, that's something unusual. Often that's shoplifting or some other type of fraud. Right now we're capturing that as an analytic. So in another demo I won't try to pull up here, but we can provide maps. Here's where the shoplifting is happening and when it's happening. And then what we're moving towards is real-time notification. Somebody's doing something wrong right now in this store. We work with the Loss Prevention Research Council, the LPRC, in order to move this forward. This is cutting-edge research that we're working on.
Ce qui est bien, c'est que vous avez trouvé ça intéressant.
All of them? Yeah. So we're just talking about a chance for engagement. We're in 2 clubs, which has done the hard part of getting here. Enjoy the tour. Enjoy the tour.
And this company is really the leader in our. Hey, Dean.
Hello.
Take it away.
Okay, Dean Crew, Chief Technology Officer of SML. One way to think about us is the world is changing, moving away from a SKU-based set of systems. Like when you go buy things today, you buy things off of a style, size, and color. Okay? When you buy that jacket or those pair of slacks or whatever. The world's moving to everything will have a unique identity, which means the SKU and a serial number. And once you start doing that, what you're able to do is you're able to start managing at the item level. And that's what our customers are doing today. So we have a video case study that we just released on Thursday from Stadium, which is a sports retailer in the Nordics. I really encourage you to look at that. It's on our website at sml-rfid.com. And but that's what we do. We provide the tags and we provide the software to be able to support brands around the world. And we currently are managing billions of units every year. We have thousands of stores live. It's going to be the way retail is managed, specifically in apparel, footwear, home goods, sporting goods, cosmetics and fragrance, and electronics. Not as much in consumer packaged goods right now, but across those chains. And the value proposition is simple. If I'm able to do a stock count every week instead of every year. So picture a store where you have 100,000 items. It used to be they did a stock count once a year. They're now doing a stock count every week. And they get their inventory at 98%, and every week they keep their inventory at 98%. By doing that, they know what they have, they know what they don't have, which means they are able to make sure their inventory stays accurate to match, so that when I go in to buy this jacket, they have it in my size, they have it in my color. So once they know what they have, they've got the assortment correct, then they're able to get a sales lift because they don't have any out of stocks. The second thing it does is it allows them to do buy online, pick up in store more efficiently. If I know what I have, if I order this online to come be picked up in the store, I'm sure that when I get there, it's going to be there. Most retailers have inventory accuracy of less than 70%, 70. This, you get it to 98. For this technology, you get it to 98%, but more importantly, you're able to make sure your out of stocks go down and you don't have canceled BOPUS orders, buy online, pick up in store orders. So the message to the press is that this is going to be the way retail is managed in those categories that I listed out: apparel, footwear, home goods, sporting goods, cosmetics and fragrance, and electronics. And we're seeing adoption across the world in this. Any questions or? Yeah.
Any adaptation pre or post COVID impact on the business? Are you seeing acceleration?
Yeah. So we approximately doubled last year in revenue for our software business. We added multiple percentage points in the tag, and what happened was, what COVID did is it disrupted, as we all are aware as consumers, it disrupted the retail segment. And our customers who were using our technology were able to immediately, for example, some of our retail chains have thousands of stores outfitted with our technology. They were able to come into their store after closure, do a stock count, and immediately adjust their inventory, where their competitors who didn't have the technology had no idea what they had. They had no idea what they needed to move back to the warehouse. They had no idea. And so this technology enables us to basically allow them to recover much more quickly. But as a whole, in the forecasting side, we're seeing our technology be adopted at an enormous rate compared to where we were before COVID. Because inventory is so important. You and I, we don't buy product anymore just either in the store or online. We're doing both. And when we buy online, sometimes we want to use the store inventory to fulfill those orders. And that's the biggest change that we've seen in the industry since COVID. First thing is a pilot to build a business case. So we at any one time have got numerous pilots going on around the world where we're going in to measure what your system says you have versus what you really have. Build a business case and then produce the rollout, which is looking at how do I get product tagged, going to the vendors themselves and tagging the product, and our technology and our team does that, as well as then doing the implementation in the supply chain and in the stores. Very common. We've been doing this now for 11 years. So we have a methodology and a process, and relatively simple. The big change is The tags have to be different on the product itself. But that's what we do. Like I said, we produced close to 3 billion tags last year. So a piece of apparel will have a hang ticket, a sew-in, a sticker, another hang ticket. For cosmetics and fragrance, you might see something as a sticker that goes on the product, okay? This is done at the factories themselves. So instead of the vendor putting on a hang ticket without RFID, they don't even know the difference. They're just putting on a hang ticket, but inside the hang ticket, thanks Gary, inside the hang ticket is an RFID tag, okay? And what our team does is that we then print and encode things like the barcode, description, a price, etc. on the product. This is a good example. Here's an example of a completed hang ticket. You can't even tell. Yeah, that has everything on it. And the vendor doesn't even know they're putting an RFID tag on. They just know they're putting a hang ticket on the product. A long time ago, there was a big concern about privacy. The reality is, if you're like me, as soon as I buy the product, I take the hang ticket off.
Gotcha.
Okay, and even if, and
but
even
you can still track him.
no, after the hang ticket gets cut off, there's no connection to the device, to the unit anymore. And then here, if you use a sew-in tag, so this would be like in a care label. The reality is, most of us cut these off because some brands are using a sew-in tag for security.
Yes.
And a lot of those are cut out. So it really provides the ability for the consumer to decide what they want to do. And again, once that's cut out, and even if I left it in, all I'm able to do is say that this is a blue medium t-shirt that has no connection to me. So a lot of those privacy things were frankly overblown. Okay, the reality is we have more privacy concerns about walking around with our cell phone than we do with an RFID tag sewn into our garments.
Hey, that was great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hopefully it was useful. Okay, thank you. Yeah, great. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Having to go to 3 different systems.
We have 4 different EFTs.
Keep going up to like, so that's been around forever. RFID. But the challenge is the price point is so high. Now the price point is low.
I still
That's something I really want to do. I got a pair of left. Last one. This is one. Yeah. So we're going to see. Hi there. How are you? Hello. Good to see you. Wonderful group, and we saved the best for last. Let's say, so to speak, right?
Welcome.
So
hopefully English is easy for everyone.
Yeah.
I would assume.
And then you may have to project.
Ma français est pas parfait.
Carrie, just project a little bit because
no problem. Well, welcome. This is the Locust booth here at NRF, and I guess I could start out by saying, basically, are there any initial questions that maybe I can focus my discussion on to help you guys out?
Yeah, I would say, like, who's using it? What's the use case?
Okay.
What's the ROI?
All right, fair enough. Locust specifically is designed for e-commerce and fulfillment warehouses, where we deal with a lot of things, for example, online ordering and so on for fulfillment itself.
We stage that. That's all been rehearsed.
Specifically, and one of the unique things about the robots themselves is it brings the work to the worker, as opposed to in a warehouse where you've got a cart-based system where workers follow through the warehouse pulling a heavy cart. This takes away a lot of unproductive walking time specifically, and allows the worker to be significantly more productive than they would be if they were pulling a cart around the warehouse. So what we've cut down in terms of the time frame itself is we've increased productivity almost 2 to 3 times in most cases. And the deployment capability of the system itself is so quick that we can be up and running in most warehouses, in existing warehouses, in as little as 4 weeks. And
the question I asked was, how is this different from Amazon?
How is it different from Amazon? Well, it's significantly different in the sense that an Amazon system is what we call goods to person, where you're bringing a rack to a picking location. It's set up in a warehouse where the workers are not able to go into the warehouse space where the robots are operating. Whereas in our system itself, the robots they're actually cobots. They can work with you, as a matter of fact. In fact, I can encourage, as we can walk around, as you saw earlier, one of the robots decided to come through here. You're gonna find the robots are very, very friendly. They come up to you, they move around very easily. The navigation is absolutely spectacular because they'll be able to, in fact, I'm waiting for one to come by. I'm actually gonna step in front of one to give you a sense of it. I essentially aggravate the hell out of them, but they're very persistent and they find a way to do it. And they find a way to get to where their pick locations are. And so the uniqueness of this is that it can work very closely with humans in a perfectly safe environment while simply doubling and tripling their productivity. As your question came up about the ROI itself, we can have an ROI in as little as 4 months. 100% ROI because we use a subscription model, a RaaS-based model. So robots as a service, where you basically, as I said, a subscription model. You hire the robots themselves as they would be, for example, with other employees. But as your needs change and as they grow, you can simply add more robots, and it makes it significantly easier to scale the system up and down as you go along. So when it comes to things like peak season, for example, we have a lot of customers that order extra robots, and they simply deploy the robots until that volume goes down, and they're able to lower the volume itself and then take the robots offline.
So the robots go with the pickers?
No, there's no following of the robots themselves. The robots go to the locations. The workers work in basically a zone type environment.
Okay.
So if you're working in a particular aisle, the robots will come into the aisle with orders. Okay. And one robot might interact with 3 or 4 different pickers in the course of their mission.
Okay, so the pickers stay still and the robots go on.
Essentially, but they move around the aisle itself, moving from pick to pick. They're still the reason that the function of taking the item off the shelf, putting it into the robot based on the order. When the robot parks in a given location, it displays what item it's looking for, shows you the rack location, the SKU, even a picture of the item itself that it's looking for. Okay. And there's an onboard scanner that allows the worker to scan the item to make sure that it's 100% accurate. And so it puts it into the appropriate bin, and you can have multiple orders on a single robot. You can do bulk picking. There's a significant amount of flexibility that goes with that. A number of other companies, for example, major sporting clothing and so on, manufacturers that we work with around the world. I can't name some of the names that we work with, but they do a lot of that fulfillment. So it's direct to consumer as well as direct to store.
I used to work for Foot Locker Corporate, and during the busy peak seasons, they would actually make the corporate workers go into the warehouse to help with the picking.
Yeah, I've actually done that myself too.
So that's why I knew about it.
What I've found too, from a working perspective too, is that training workers, what it does is it changes the labor situation significantly. Because now you're doubling and tripling the productivity of an individual worker. You don't need to hire as many people in order to be just efficient. So you've increased your capability by 2x automatically.
The loss of wear and tear on the human probably increases retention.
And that's an excellent point. Thank you. And she wasn't planted, I promise you this, but she's given me all the perfect cue points, because that is the biggest challenge that you have, is that labor is not only short of availability, but it's also significantly harder to retain those because you've got competition within the different areas. Warehouses tend to be grouped together in a lot of places, and so they're poaching each other back and forth. You can go down the street for $1 more to do exactly the same job, but we've found in a lot of cases that those that start working with the robots tend to want to stay because the job is actually easier, a lot easier overall. So we're not only improving the workplace quality, we've not only improved the workplace quality, but we've also improved lowered the fatigue level of the worker themselves. And it also helps with recruiting, because when they know they're working with this technology and say, hey, look, even for $1 more, I'm not going to go down the street. My job is a hell of a lot easier here as doing it than it would be going down the street. So the retention is significantly higher overall. the robot receives a mission from the WMS system, for example. So an order comes in. The robot then takes that order, and we cluster the orders that we have so that we bring the work to the worker, so we can maximize the amount of work that's on the individual robot. The robot then figures out, we basically say, look, you have 7 items in this order. They're at 7 different locations throughout the warehouse. You have to, as the robot, plot the fastest way to get there. So the robot is fully autonomous as it's going through the warehouse, but if it encounters an obstacle, it will communicate that information back to the other robots and allow the other robots to say, hey, look, there's a block in this aisle. I'm going to reroute my position so that I'm still continuing to be as most efficient as I can be. And so the robots do have a mind of their own. Once you've given them that assignment, their job is to go from here to there, and that's it. And there's no real need for human intervention.